This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning. I would like to call the meeting to order. It is 9:10 a.m. on Monday, May 13th, 2024. This is a hybrid format meeting of the OBMT. Welcome to those joining from the Hampton Inn and Suites in Salem and to those attending remotely. A point of housekeeping: if joining remotely, all members of the public are asked to include your name and license number so your attendance can be recorded. Please keep your camera and microphone off until asked to speak during roll and during the public comment period. We will now move into introductions, and I'll call roll, beginning with board members, then staff, and finally members of the public. Again, please state your name, title or license number, and location. I'm Beckett Rowan, they, them pronouns. I am board chair and LMT member from Cresswell.
I'm Carol Gray, LMT member, vice chair, Portland.
Maria Odell, public service member.
My name is Raymond Riley, LMT number 26355, he, him, and I'm from Astoria.
Hey, I'm Scott English, public member from Dallas, Oregon.
Bob Ruark, I'm the executive director for the board.
I'm Angie Hunt, and I will be taking over as legal counsel for Lori.
I'm Lori Lindley, current AAG for the board.
Jeff Van Lennon, compliance and licensure manager for the board.
And it looks like we have no public members at this point. So at this point, is there any discussion regarding today's agenda? A motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move to approve the agenda.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is approved. Oh, Carol, I'm going to be relying on your vocalizations for voting today. So I'm having screen trouble, so if you just make sure you're saying it.
Okay, I moved to, anyway, I approve that last motion.
Thank you. Yeah, I heard you. I just wanted to let you know. Thank you. Okay, is there any discussion regarding the minutes from March 25, 2024?
The minutes from March 25th.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved. Thank you. Go ahead and move on to board business. I'll turn it over to Director Ruark.
Thank you. Just wait for this to pop up. All right. So the budget financial report, 10 months into the 23-25 biennium, and as of May 1, 2024, the board has a bank balance of $377,443, which represents about 3.5 months of working capital. The board has income of approximately 906. At this point in the biennium, the board has had income of approximately 967,000, and has had expenditures totaling about 869,000, a difference of approximately 98,000 for the biennium. So at this point in the biennium, we have earned approximately 106,000 less than forecasted, and have spent about 216,000 less than forecasted for the first 10 months. So we're doing okay. There's a chance that I'm going to have to rebalance the budget. Probably I'm going to wait till 1 year of the biennium's done, a couple more months, and I'll probably try to rebalance the budget. When I forecasted this budget, I had to forecast it during COVID, and I had to use numbers from basically 2 biennium that had a COVID effects. So I had to kind of guess about where we were going to get income or what our income was going to be. So I was off a little bit. So I'll rebalance the budget at the 1 year mark. The 3 main line items in income that are down are initial licensing fees, application fees, and civil penalties. There's a reason our civil penalties are down a little bit. They're not substantially down, but we have a little bit of a backlog from when our other compliance specialist, previous compliance specialist before Mitch left, There were some cases that didn't get processed, and we're in the process right now of getting those cases out, which represents probably the remainder of the money to make that line item whole. Both initial licensing fees and application fees have varied, with some months making our projections and other months our income is lower than it should have been. If these trends continue, I intend to rebalance the budget. So our expenses, we underspent our income by approximately $98,000 as of April 30th. The two line items that make up the bulk of our under expenditures are payroll expenses and investigation expenses. We had an additional full-time limited duration position, which Christian filled. And when I built the budget a couple of years ago, I built that position into that budget just because I didn't know how long COVID was going to last. And I wanted to make sure we had that position. When he got hired to fill Mitch's old position, we have not refilled that. And I'm not going to until I see that our budget is rebounded. And then I'll approach the board about maybe adding that position back in and see if the board will approve it. Any questions about the budget financial?
My question about that position that isn't filled, is that having a deleterious effect on staff workload at this point, or are you managing okay?
Yeah, I think we're okay. That position was really good for the staff, because anything that if it got busy, we could always push stuff off to that individual. And that position filled a much needed void. There's 6 of us running 8,000 licensees, and it's a lot. It can be a lot at times, especially that we answer the phones. A lot of licensing agencies don't, but we answer our phones anytime someone calls. And sometimes it goes to voicemail because all of our lines are lit up and there's only 6 of us, right? And I envision that position being a primary on the phones, and that way it'll free up time for other people to be able to complete their job without having to take a phone call every 5 minutes. At the beginning of every month and the end of every month, when people are either renewing their licenses or trying to scramble because they didn't renew their license, the phones just go crazy, and we're all on the phones for a couple of weeks, at least a week. So to answer your question, we have seen an impact of that position not being there. We can certainly make it work without that position. We'd love to have it. And I just want to see how this budget rebounds, and I'll make that proposal to the board, and the board can decide whether they want to add a FTE. The nice thing about a SEBA board is that we don't have to go to the legislators to add a position. The board has the authority to be able to do that without having the legislators approve. It doesn't need legislative approval. So
That's a big deal, because sometimes
Huge.
in our office, we can't hold a position
Yeah.
because they're telling us what we have to do with it, so we have a lot
Absolutely.
more freedom.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think we all learned the value of having an extra body that can plug up holes
Yes,
the last couple of years.
absolutely. Absolutely.
I'll just footnote, it makes it difficult to right now we have a vacation and leave, and the skeleton crew is basically on the phone 70% of the workday, which means we're only 30% of the workday is being applied to actually getting the work done. So it is an important position, but I agree with Director Ruark. We could live without it if we had to. It's just, we're gonna have those backlogs and then recovery, backlogs and recovery.
Yeah.
We've done it before, but.
Yeah, and as with the new governor, there's a lot of mandates that the governor wants to have completed. And as the director, I spent a lot of time in meetings and actually prepping for these reports that need to be completed. There's one in the packet today, and answering phones, for a week as the director is difficult, and still be able to do what I need to do for the governor's office. So it definitely is a position that we need, I think.
And it's always a risk when we don't have anyone who has redundancies.
Yeah.
That's a huge risk.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
And it really assists the agency in a broader futuristic perspective in the benefit of having, I'm not picking on Christian as an individual, or I guess picking's the wrong word. Christian is a unicorn. He knew a lot about everybody's position and was an effective backup for everyone. It also allowed, when we did have some changeover and turnover, for us to successfully backfill all those positions without much of a drop in productivity at all. And we didn't. That's a big testament to Christian as an individual and an employee, but it also supports the jack of all trades, master of none position that this position is they get trained in 2 or 3 different locations. Being primary on the phone quickly forces you to become at least at an awareness level of all aspects. And then when someone does go on vacation or has a leave issue, it allows us to plug that hole at least 60, 70%. And so when the person comes back, they're not spending 2 weeks just catching up before they can even get their work done. So it's an important position, has to have the right person in it, and we need to be able to afford it. But if we can, I would be a big supporter of getting somebody to fill that when it's available.
Thank you.
Any other questions about that? I'll go on here. Your executive staff attended the annual FSMTB Executive Summit in April. The summit provides an opportunity for member board directors and administrators and executive personnel to meet, share ideas, and learn about nationwide trends in the massage industry. Topics included an overview of the Interstate Compact and FSMTB programs and services, as well as a discussion of licensing uniformity and standardization. We had a guest speaker that talked about cultural and societal changes within a regulatory complex. That was an outstanding speaker. He sort of broke down the generations and talked about some trends with those generations. So it was pretty neat. Those are just a few of the topics presented and discussed at the 2-day summit. It was well attended and the information was on point and informative. Jeff attended and he was part of a committee. So the committee presented some information on establishment enforcement.
The task force that I'm on for FSMTB regarding licensure of establishments. We have close to a final draft and we presented that to the FSMTB membership, executive membership. And then they gave us some feedback on that. We should be putting together a final version, hopefully before the next FSMTB. I guess it'll be the annual meeting in October.
I think so, yeah. There are a lot of states that don't regulate establishments, just the individual licensee.
The vast majority.
Yeah, the vast majority of them do not. And they're just finding that a problem, just simply because these establishments are hiring non-licensed people and they have no authority over them.
In fact, I'll take it one step further. Oregon's facility permit program is kind of the model that FSMTB is basing their proposal, with the final results being model policies, model forms, along with some a la carte recommendations if they wanted to add some extra cut and paste a system at any state, regardless of their local laws and rules, so that they can take on part of it, if not all of the program. And so we got a lot of interested states that either want to improve their existing program or want to start their own program to get them into the facilities and have jurisdiction over the ownership and et cetera.
Yeah, it was a good summit. There was a lot of things accomplished and a lot of information passed on. So I thought it was done very well.
Our board's been really touted there. I mean,
we often get picked to speak at those things, and we both got, I got picked to do a presentation at this particular board. So
it's just kind of nice that a little Oregon getting recognized on a federal
level.
That's pretty cool.
Do they have attorneys that go to those?
Yes.
How many are in that group?
And it varies.
It varies,
Some
yeah.
states bring their attorneys depending on which meeting it is.
Uh-huh.
I saw a lot of attorneys at the annual meeting.
Uh-huh.
I don't know the strategy behind that, but, and then of course FSMTV always has their attorneys there as well to talk about interstate issues and that kind of
Because
stuff.
there's kind of a push with a lot of these smaller groups to form these attorney roundtable groups, kind of what I did for dental. I've been doing for dental for like 12 years, a long time, but, and they, sometimes the big organization will offer scholarships for the attorneys to go. Like 25, I just got one for the Cairo one for $2,500.
Wow.
So they basically pay for my airfare and my hotel and
Nice.
maybe a few taxis or whatever. So you might want to consider that for Angie
Yeah.
to be able to kind of.
Absolutely. Any questions about the summit? I'll move on to my last topic, board member recruitment. As you know, we have one vacant board member position that was vacated recently by our, Dr. Remy Leos. And it's a public health member position. As of May 9th, I looked in our system. Basically how the applications go now is that people can go online and Workday and apply for that position. I have to check it very frequently to see if there's a potential applicant in there. I checked it on the 9th and there was no applicants for that position. So this is a problem for all boards. Fortunately for us, we have a healthy public member. We've done good recruiting public members, but most boards have a hard time getting public members. And ours is even a public health member, so it's even more difficult. So we've recruited quite heavily. We went in with other SEBA boards and other health licensing boards, wrote letters and recruiting posters and recruiting information. We sent it off to different people, and so I'm hopeful that these will pay off and we can get this position filled. But it's always one that is difficult.
Please lobby your dentist.
Yeah,
Have
absolutely.
you tried acupuncturists? Like
Mhm.
Steve was, or what's his name was so good.
Wexler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did, I think, talk about last time, it has to be somebody with a medical license.
Mhm.
Some type of benefit.
Yeah.
It's too bad we can't tap into the public health people.
Well, some of them have licenses. I mean, some of the RDHs that teach at OHSU, they're hygienists, they have licenses and they do public health at OHSU.
Well, and the problem is we are getting some applicants that are like we have a nurse applicant and we have a firefighter paramedic applicant. Both of them are LMTs though, also. And they can't be an LMT. They have to be a public member or a public health member.
That's too bad.
I can suspend their license.
No, so we talked about this, it's statutory
Mhm.
to do this, but considering we do have a provider crisis in our state.
Yeah.
What, would this be something that would have to go through the legislature to
Yeah.
potentially?
I don't think you would have a hard time getting it through, saying we're having a hard time finding these members. You're kind of hamstringing us from getting people on our board. I mean, you can do statistics, how long. I mean, we get a good one, they last for a long time, and
Yeah.
then we can't find one forever.
Correct.
So it's frustrating.
And if we did that, could we make it that if a person like a firefighter held both massage as well as fire, another medical stuff, that they could also be counted? I mean, because they're not just one, they're both, so.
Yeah, they can't. So the public member, the reason that the public health member is considered a public member, and we need so many public members on our board because without a public member, you can't do discipline. There needs to be a public member, and that balance needs to be correct. There's a lot of litigation that has happened for not having the proper makeup in the board. So, in other states.
Interesting.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out, it seems like, everyone's in a hamstrung position.
Yeah.
And so we just end up with a hole for years on end. I don't know
Correct.
that that's serving our interests either.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Well, I'm going to reach out to.
Who's the governor appointment
Yeah,
person?
I'm going to reach out to executive appointments at the governor's office and see if they can recruit somebody for us. We've done that before. I think Ming Chen was a recruited from the governor's office. And I know that they've done that before for us. So potentially we could get somebody that way. So that's my next step. I'm meeting with them, I think next week, and I'll talk to them about that. So, any questions?
Thank you. Okay, nothing else. And from Bob, let's go ahead and move on to compliance. Jeff.
Yes, the compliance and licensure report for this meeting is short and sweet. As far as the licensure division goes, reflecting on the IT transfer, that has gone extremely smoothly. Little or no issues. The process of dealing with DAS IT versus our prior contracted situation is basically seamless and very responsive. Feedback I get from staff is very positive. As far as licensure goes, Director Ruark touched on this, but I did do and when I went back with Director Ruark and we looked at it over the past several months, we see that it's actually growing a little bit each month, not just that's good. So I think we are rebounding, and the schools. For all projections, as Director Ruark pointed out, is if that recovery trend continues, then we'll exceed our budget projections in the licensure, at least with the initials and the renewals. So, the compliance, Mitch and I are still. Honestly, the position that he took over, it will take years before he reaches the effect experience that we lost, I guess. He's very effective. He's a very quick learner. He's taking on a ton, giving back parts piece by piece, and he's attacking them and doing a great job. We're all caught up on complaints. That's one of my personal priorities, is to make sure they don't linger in the queue to get assigned. That does mean, though, that some of our investigators have 5 or 6 investigations that are ongoing, and they are contractors, so they have other clients as well. So we get in the queue, and of course, any of our high priority cases, which the number one is an actual licensed massage therapist who has done something or allegedly done something that could be dangerous to the public. And then all of our unlicensed practitioners and the IMBs and stuff all take second row for that as far as prioritizing our cases. That's all going well. Mitch gave me an unofficial analysis of civil penalties. They are rebounding and increasing as well. Director Brewer touched on that in his report. And then, of course, we're transitioning to our new DOJ attorney, Angela, and together with Lori, we're going through a pretty smooth transition. And Angela and myself and Mitch are reviewing our legal documents to add in some recommendations that she's had. And I don't think you would much difference on your side, but we're just adding some things to our NOPAs and that's all for my report.
Question?
Yes.
Can you remind me how many investigators we have?
We're at 6 or 7 right now.
Thank you.
And they're strategically placed throughout the state as best as I can. We got K Falls, help us get to Bend and then Medford and like those areas. We've got Portland Metro. We've got several in Salem that can kind of branch out to almost anywhere. We have a nice variety of experience from law enforcement backgrounds to current LMTs, male and female investigators. So we've got a good mix, and we're doing a great job of it.
Yeah,
zero interest and I'm not currently recruiting, so.
Questions for Jeff?
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Chair, can I request like a 5-minute break?
Yes, let me just bring in the people who have them introduced, and then we can vote for a break if that works. So we have a couple people who have joined remotely. I would just request that if you, after we did our introductions, could you just unmute and turn your camera on, introduce yourself? And if you're an LMT, please put your license number on the screen along with your name so that we can record it for your future CEU credits. License number and where you're from.
Hi, I'm Ashley Hernandez. I'm the Government Relations Specialist with the Federation of State Massage Therapy Boards.
Hi, Ashley.
Hi, Ashley.
I'm going to butt in here. I'm having a hard time hearing people. I'm not sure where the microphones are placed. Bob, I can hear you really well, but Jeff, you were cutting out periodically. I did a speed test. It's not on my end. So I don't know whether the microphone needs to be a little closer to the person who's speaking. I think that may be the issue. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know.
Thank you, Carol. Yeah, I'm going to, at this break we're going to have, I'm going to hopefully fix a few things.
Okay, it doesn't look like we have any, oh, Carrie?
Hi. I don't know how to turn my camera on though. Oh wait, it's down here. Oh. Well, anyways, good morning. I can't get my camera to turn on right now, but I'm Carrie Weed and I've got Gorge Academy of Cosmetology and Massage out in the Dalles. In the sunny, beautiful Gorge.
Thank you, Carrie.
Beautiful right now.
Fantastic. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay.
I request you take at least a 5-minute break.
Can we make that a 10-minute?
I request that we take a 10-minute break.
I'll second that.
All in favor of a 10-minute break?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Please return at 9:48. Thank you.
Oh, maybe it's coming.
This conference will now be recorded.
Carol, can you hear us? Hopefully it's better. As you can see by the screen, we got.
I can hear you so far.
Okay, hold on one second, Carol.
Let me turn this down. Carol, can you say something for us?
Something for us. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Is that good?
Much better, yes.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
I'm like trip hazard.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
All right, it's recording.
Welcoming everyone back, and just a reminder, we are recording. So yes, please keep your mic and camera off if you're a member of the public, and we should all, have our mics off. Okay, we're continuing on. We are going to move into the proposed rules effective July 1st. Did everybody get a chance to review those? They are in your packet. Check, were there any questions or comments about the rules as they are written? Okay, if there are no concerns, we can go ahead and make it a vote to move this into the next phase of the rule process.
I move we move this into the next process, make it permanent.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next order of business, the FSMTB delegate vote. Okay, so we're gonna open this up for discussion about the 2024 board meeting that is in Washington DC, correct, Bob?
Correct, yes.
And we can send, is it 2?
So the one delegate, we oftentimes will send 2, but one of them will be paid for by us. The FSMTB will pay for the delegate.
Okay, and there is no one here outside of Bob and Jeff who's attended this conference, right?
Correct.
So for those of you who are new, we normally do send a board member, and it's something that's been kind of like pass the baton of who gets to go. But with COVID and some concerns also about some location issues that we've had in the past, there's no one on the board who's currently gone. So if anyone is interested, please throw your hat in the ring to go to that. I believe last year we sent Jeff and Bob.
I'd love to go. But
Yay, Ray!
Bob, do you want to explain a little bit about what the delegate does?
Yeah, so I would not send a new board member as the delegate. I would send a new board member to go and view as, just to, and I support that 100%, but as the delegate, it's very, it can be very political. It can be, you have to vote. And not that a new board member couldn't, but the process can be a little overwhelming without knowing exactly what's going on. If you send a board member, the following year, they could certainly be a delegate because they'll know what's going on and maybe feel a little more comfortable. So I would recommend sending, if there's another board member that has been to one, or myself or Jeff, to that meeting to act as a delegate with board members to view what's going on, and then next year, maybe some of those board members can be a delegate if they so desire. It can be difficult.
Is this the one that's September 27th, 28th?
No, that's our travel board meeting.
This is a meeting of the national organization that's in October, I think 3rd through 5th.
Yes, it's in Washington, D.C.
And next year it's Kansas City, Missouri.
Good barbecue.
Yep.
So when I first started here, we tried to send every board member to it. The first year I was here, I got sent to it because I had never been to one. We sent, I think, 3 board members that particular year. We had to be very cautious that the board members didn't speak to each other and things. We were worried about forums and all that stuff. There was only 3 of them. But we can send more than just one board member. If we have 2 board members that are interested, I recommend doing that. It's a little more money right now, but the nice thing about it is you have people in the queue to be able to be delegates down the road. And it doesn't have to rely on me to be the delegate, so.
I think that's really important because now we're in the situation we're in.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think we send anybody who wants to go.
Yeah.
I think should have an opportunity to.
I agree.
I think it would behoove us immensely. And we also have to look at, for those of you who haven't been here, conferences happen in states that are not necessarily going to be conducive to all members going. For example, if they had a convention in Florida, I'm not going to travel to Florida. I think there are things like that that are going to be prohibitive for certain people. So the more we can just have people who are willing and can travel to different places, the better it is for the passing the baton on the board.
Yeah. And it's pretty, the Washington D.C. one's pretty rough travel-wise because you fly there and then you have a meeting the next day, and then the following day you have a half a day, and then you fly back. So you're leaving bright and early one morning, and then 2 days later you're getting in at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. So I've done that trip. Jeff has done that trip, and it can be a little rough, but it's very valuable. I mean, you really get to network with other people nationwide, all the boards, different boards and delegates nationwide. And you get to have a voice for the board. You get to be the voice for the board. So it's pretty neat.
So am I hearing Ray wants to go and then Jeff and Bob? Or Bob, Jeff or Bob?
Potentially, is it the 3rd through the 5th? Is that what I heard?
Yes.
Yes.
I believe I'm interested.
I'm interested in going too. I'm interested in going too.
Wonderful.
Sweet.
Okay, well,
I have a question question though, and maybe this is more of an administrative question later on. Is there an option to not take a red eye if I pay the difference in airfare? Or if I elect to stay a day longer at my own expense, is that an administrative nightmare?
Absolutely. It's very common. A lot of the board members, especially from the West Coast, we had somebody there from Hawaii last time. But a lot of the people from the West Coast will stay an extra 2 or 3 days or make a week out of it. Obviously, the board, covers the cost from there, but, that you're at the meeting, and then after that's your own, expense. But a lot of people do that. It's very common.
Okay, well, I also am free those dates and potentially.
Thank you, Carol, and for asking that question. With Melissa not being here and just starting at the beginning of her term, I'm wondering if, since there is more interest this year, this is what I could go to also, like, could we bring this to the next meeting to discuss it, and everybody can double check their schedules? Because it sounds like we could have a robust contingent this year.
Absolutely.
And I think that would really be positive for us, so.
And Chair Beckett, since they already have the dates for 2025, we could discuss that as well too, maybe.
Yeah.
Would we be amenable to, would it be okay at this point if we do that and move the vote to the next meeting?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
I don't know.
I move to.
No, hold on.
Hold on one second, you can't.
Oh.
No, but this is November, right? When is the?
October.
Yes, but we would have to make that decision 100%. Because we have to get the flights together and logistically and all that kind of stuff.
Well, that's what I would really like to be sure that anybody who says they can go 100% can. We have that all locked in, we could do that.
Because it's 3 months after our next meeting.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
That's actually 2 months only, because we're cutting, our meeting's on the 22nd, and it's at the beginning, so actually it's only 2 months.
Yeah.
So that may be cutting it really difficult for a
We do it
day.
today, yeah.
No, I think we can do that, but that would be the absolute minimum.
Yeah, we would have to know, and then we buy the tickets right after that.
Immediately.
So.
What I'd like to, I have two questions. So October 3 through 5 this year is in DC. What are the 2025 dates and where is that location?
It's in Missouri.
It's Kansas City, Missouri, and it's October 5 to 7.
Thank you.
Welcome. And it's on, by the way, it's on the FSMBT under news and events.
Yeah, well, I think this is a big change that we actually have people who
Absolutely.
potentially go.
Exciting.
I didn't expect it, to be honest. So, yeah.
There are some states that come to this, that come with a cadre of people.
Oh, yeah.
It looks like, I don't know if in high school you ever participated in the United Nations. Your flags are out, it's very formal. There's a lot of serious business being conducted. There's a lot of learning and networking going on. Puerto Rico is there. It's a thing. It would be kind of neat to have Oregon show up.
It would. And oftentimes we get, Oregon gets picked to present or speak and things like that. So it would be nice to have that support for, and the nice thing is that after this one, if we get a bunch of people, then we can just send board members and I don't have to go.
Right, because at some point you're gonna retire.
Yeah.
So I feel like we do need to bank this knowledge.
Yeah.
So it would be really helpful to get more board members.
Absolutely.
Okay, so do we need to take a vote to move this to the next meeting?
Yep.
Okay.
Because you're just basically moving the agenda item off the agenda to the next meeting. So.
That's what I wanted to check.
Yeah.
Okay, so can I get a motion to move the vote on the delegation to FSMTB for 2024 to the July board meeting?
I'll move to move agenda item 6.4 to the July meeting.
Second.
All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, and now we will go ahead on to the discussion of board officer elections. And this is for our board positions, not committee delegations, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So at this point, I am currently serving as chair. Carol is vice chair, and we're the only positions right now that are elected. So I have not had a chance to speak with Carol to know if you would like to continue in that position or if anybody else is interested. So we just open it up for discussion here.
I'm okay with continuing as vice chair if people will have me.
People will have me.
We'll have you, Carol. I'm not challenging your position.
Yeah, you can throw your hat in the ring or nominate someone else for the position. So did you want to say anything, Bob?
Yeah, so basically you can call for nominations, or does anybody want to nominate and do some nominations? It has to be seconded, then there's a vote basically. If there's well, we'll just go with that at first. If there's any other hiccups, then we'll deal with those. So.
Okay. Well, at this point, I would like to nominate Maria for the vice chair position. As you're going to be.
I'm not opposed to it. It's my starting my second term, so I'm not opposed to it. I'd be happy to step up if anybody else or Carol doesn't want it, or what do y'all want to do?
Well, again, Carol, you're going to do another term? Is my understanding?
Yes, my current term expires in September, and I have expressed an interest in a second term.
Wonderful. So, yeah, both of them will be staying, and it's one of those things we, try to get experience in. This is obviously rotating positions and things, so. Yeah, I guess that's where we are now. So do we need to?
There needs to be a second. For the nomination. So you nominate her.
Okay, I wasn't sure if I could nominate.
You can, yeah, you're a board member.
Okay, it's like, I don't get to vote?
You can vote.
Oh, I can vote?
Yeah, you have to.
You can vote. Okay. Well, I'm making sure.
We're down some people right now. So.
We don't do this a whole lot.
Yeah, you're right, you're right.
I've only seen this a few times.
So we need a second for Beckett's motion.
If there is one.
I'll second the motion. Not that I have anything against Carol, but I do think it's good to move things around and not let any one person hold any title for too long. Not that I know how long you've actually been
We have a second. Okay, at this point, can I get a vote on, we have a motion on the floor for Maria for vice chair.
Are there any other nominations?
Are there any other nominations? Thank you.
And if Carol, so do I need to nominate Carol if she would like to do it again for another term?
Yep.
Then I would move to Carol or have Carol be represented again.
Okay, can I get a second?
Can I second both? What?
Yes.
And then it just comes down to a vote.
And then,
yes, correct.
And then if, this is no surprise, I'm new, what's the benefits of having her again versus the benefits of having her as a first timer?
Well, I think the benefits to having Carol again is that she's done it, right? No, there's no learning curve for she's done it. So it'll be another year. It's a 1-year position, voted on every year. And so it'll be basically a smooth transition. There won't be a transition. She'll just continue doing what she's doing. And if you have somebody new, they're going to have to learn, the process and what their responsibilities are and their roles and those kind of things. You can get on board fairly quick, I believe, anyway. Not having been in that position, maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but the benefit to having a new person is that you get a more well-rounded board. I mean, you have people that all have experience as being an officer on the board. So there's your downside and your upside. So.
I will say, I guess I just want to throw this out. Carol, I appreciate that you have served in this position and stepped up and did it, and that Carol has done a wonderful job doing what she's doing. Why I moved to have Maria take this position is that Maria can and does attend in person. And in particular, when we go to things like the business meeting and navigating this hybrid meeting format, I find it is very advantageous in working with the staff and managing that board meeting. And I know Carol isn't able to come in person, and that is absolutely fine, but I think there is some advantage to having somebody who can come in person. That's just what my experience has been, in my opinion, for how navigating our meetings and working with the staff is easier. So that's the thought I have. So we have 2 nominations on the floor. Let's go ahead and move to a vote. Can I get all in favor of Maria serving as the vice chair?
Do a show of hands. That's what I would do.
And they have to say it out loud too. They can do both, but yeah.
Yeah, that's say it out loud in their head. That way you can count.
Okay.
So.
Can I get a show of hands and verbal acknowledgement for all in favor of Maria taking the position as vice chair of the board? Aye.
Do we have to vote?
That's what I'm asking.
I don't care.
Yeah, I'm asking too.
I think you can abstain.
You can abstain.
You can abstain.
It's gonna create a quorum problem.
We're pretty short
Yeah.
forum-wise. If we had our other 2 members, it would be difficult.
So technically, yes, but it'd be great if you didn't.
Yes. That's right, that's what I was gonna say. Thank you. You just spoke my words for me.
I'll vote yes.
Yes, for Maria.
And you can vote too.
Yeah, you can vote on yourself.
Yeah.
I'm gonna abstain.
Okay.
It's all new. Yeah. it's all
Okay,
new
so
to me.
all opposed and abstaining,
Abstaining, Maria, sorry.
And then what is?
And Carol.
What's Carol gonna do?
She's
I'm a deer in
abstaining.
the headlights, I'm sorry.
so,
I know it's hard when it's you voting for yourself. It's
Yeah.
weird.
so 3 in favor, no opposed, 2 abstain.
There wouldn't be an opposed on
Okay,
an election like that, would there?
I mean, in
could-
theory, you
I
could,
could-
yeah,
okay,
you could,
okay,
you
sorry.
could say no if
Yep.
you didn't want the person. But abstaining, I see, feels better.
Mhm.
so,
3-2.
mhm.
Okay, 3, well, it's 3-0, 2 abstaining.
3-0.
Two
Yeah.
abstaining.
Yeah.
And I don't actually know if that can carry. I'm actually a little bit worried about your quorum requirements because they don't, because normally if you have 7 board members and only 3 vote, I don't know if
You don't
it
carry
can pass.
You're right, yeah, that's
Yeah,
before.
I think it has to be 4.
But you only have 6, right?
You only have
There's 7 total available, but
There's only 5 here today.
yeah.
So we may have a problem without having Melissa here.
Right.
So you might have to move the elections to the next board meeting when more people show up. If,
Yeah, you could change your vote.
I'll change my vote and say aye for Maria.
Then it would pass.
Then it would pass.
Okay,
I don't want there to be any
problem.
right. Angie's new, I don't want her to have to work too terribly
Yeah.
today.
We don't want an illegal vote either.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
so do we have to retake the vote?
Let's just
or-
retake it, just recall.
Yeah,
just
that's
to
what I
make
would
sure.
Thank you. Okay, all in favor of Maria being made vice chair of the board? Aye.
Any opposed?
Any opposed?
Any abstentions?
Abstaining? With one, Carol, one. Okay. So the vote of 4 in favor, 1 abstention. Maria will serve as the 2024-2025 board vice chair.
About time.
Okay, thank
Do
you.
we need to have a vote?
Yeah, and then
We
you
need to
have
have a vote on the other one too, the other candidate, even though,
Yes.
right?
Well, because he nominated.
Yeah,
Here,
There's
Mr.
been a
English
nomination in a
nominated.
second.
which is why we had to have a
Carol,
vote.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Who seconded?
There hasn't been yet, so it could.
Oh, okay.
So there could be
That's
no
what I was
motion,
trying to,
but
was
if
trying
you
to
would-
catch up.
No, he seconded it.
Oh, you did second it?
I asked if I
Raised it?
could second.
yes.
Oh.
Technically, I never did get around to it.
Oh,
Don't
okay.
worry, I'll be writing a script out for this next
So we
year.
have a motion, so we have a motion hanging and we need a second or not. It can die if there's no second.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion to, for Carol as vice chair of the board. Do I have a second? Okay, with no second, the motion dies.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service, Carol.
Absolutely.
Yes, and I mean, it's, I think, important for all of us to remember, especially new members, that this is a very bureaucratic administrative thing.
Yeah.
And it's, we all can move in and out of positions. Oh, this is 4 or 8 years is a long time, and we can all flow in and out of responsibility.
Well, the more experience everybody gets, the better we are.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay, so I guess moving forward, would probably make everyone feel even more awkward, my position as chair. I am fine staying on as chair. But I need to know if there's any discussion or anyone else wants to step into it or nominate.
I move that Beckett stays chair.
You nominate.
Nominate.
Yeah, I nominate Beckett to stay as chair.
Second.
Okay. Okay, all in favor of me remaining chair?
Aye.
What's your vote? Same chair.
Okay.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay,
Abstaining. Carol, want to oppose?
No,
nay.
she abstained.
Oh, abstaining.
Did she say abstain?
I'm sorry.
Carol, is that a
Say
nay
it
or
again.
abstain?
No, I said no.
Okay,
thank
that's
you.
what I thought she said.
Okay, so, I have to vote, sorry. Let's do this again. All in favor of me remaining chair? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay, motion carries. I will remain the board chair for the next year. Anything else with that?
I will say that there is a script for this, and Kaite would have brought it because she's much better at this than me.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you very much for helping with this.
Yeah, and I apologize too, because I've never had to do this. Krista, who was here, was the master of knowing how to do these procedural things, so I apologize for the clunkiness. Okay. Let's go ahead and move on then to new business. Anyone have anything they would like to bring up?
Oh, I remembered something that I would like to bring up.
Yes, Maria.
I'm getting old, my eyes are getting tired, I'm working 12 hours a day. I need more time. I need more time to read all of the documentation and all of these reports and stuff. Can we have the agenda and the stuff by like the Wednesday before the meeting? So that I can print it out and read it at my leisure and make notes on the compliance action sheet? Because you know, you guys know what it is like to be on the computer.
Mm.
And now that summer's here, we all have got a lot of planting and everything. Oh, come on. Can't afford that.
Yeah, so our target is 2 weeks previous, so you have 2
2 weeks.
weekends.
Okay, perfect.
And the Kaite has really work to try to make that target. And I think you'll get the compliance stuff.
We had it ready this time.
It was-
just didn't
it
have
was
the
ready,
staff
but-
to get it all.
Yeah, it was, pretty much the entire board packet was ready, but, we didn't have the computer, we didn't know the elite system well enough to be able to attach it, so Kathy was helping us with that. And of course, she just had a baby, so, there was some
Okay.
delay in that. But our goal is to have it to you 2 weeks previous to the meeting.
2 weeks
And-
would be absolutely wonderful. That gives me time.
We like to give 2 weekends, basically,
Oh,
because we know.
There on the first.
Well, the compliance sheet, I use it to make notes
Understood.
and put stuff down, and when it wasn't there, I was freaking out like I was doing something wrong. I logged out, I logged back in, I did that a few times, because the computer sometimes, But this is what I make my notes on, and that was what was missing, and I totally get it, you guys, like,
Yeah, well,
now that Akayate's gone for a while.
she'll be back for the next board meeting, and thank goodness.
I think it's a great reminder of like what we talked about earlier, why we need some redundancies and some extra cushion in the staff.
Yeah.
Because, we all have jobs and we all need the time and you all need the help because you're on the phone. So as a new business item though, we would like to, the goal is 2 weeks to have compliance into the system. And what are we at for the goal for reports? Like any of the reports that are gonna be discussed?
We're looking at 2 weeks for everything. We're
2 weeks
looking
for
at basically 2 weekends. So, because the board meeting's on a Monday.
Mhm.
So if you just look back 2 weekends, that's what we're going for. So everybody has, 15 days or 12 days, whatever that 2 weekends happens to be, to give them a nice cushion. So that's what the Akaite is looking at, is 2 weekends.
Okay, I feel like I haven't been seeing a lot of those reports,
You're right.
rules and things populating in until I'm actually at the hotel.
Yeah, and sometimes they're populated, but there's a little magic trick you gotta do with the elite system for you to see it. So we can populate it, and if I don't hit that one little checkbox, then you don't see it. And that's a learning curve for me. I learned that process
Okay.
this time. But Akaite has made it clear that she would like these to be for 2 weeks and previous, and that's what we're gonna go with. And so I think you'll see some improvement there moving forward.
I think, thank you. Maria, is that satisfactory?
I would love 2 weeks, and I'd so appreciate it, and I will get my eyes checked.
And just so everybody also knows, moving forward, I'm going through all of our policies right now. This board has more policies than you can imagine. Some of them are very old. And I'm going through all these policies, making sure they're sort of germane to what's going on right now. There'll be times I'm gonna be running these through the attorney. And then I'm also going through all the board assignments. We wanted to wait till we got a full board. That might not be the case right now. I was waiting for the last position to be filled. But I think it's time that we bring forward the board assignment list. There needs to be a board liaison for CEs. There needs to be a board liaison for schools. All of those are outdated. So those are just collateral assignments for board members. And none of those are assigned to anybody that's still here. Pre-COVID is when the last time those were assigned out. And so those are all things that are coming. Some of that may be the business meeting coming up. But I'm gonna be filtering that stuff in as we go along, so there'll be a lot of work for the board to do.
I was gonna say that I have been reviewing the business meeting info from last year.
Yeah.
And that was something on there, was getting those roles delegated, but also a description of them, so everyone can understand what they're getting into and know what their responsibilities are. Is that something that would be reasonable to have at the business meeting? Or is that something that we need, there anything that the board members can do to support the staff in pulling that together?
My plan was to bring it before the business meeting, so the next board meeting, bring you the assignments with descriptions of what they are. Then you can decide if you want to do away with that or add another assignment or something like that. I can make that list like it needs to be, and then we can move forward to the business meeting with it. That way we're not going in the weeds about having big discussions. You guys have already approved it. This is what I want. You can go to the business meeting and say, anybody interested? Yeah, I'm interested. Okay, we're going to assign you to that. And kind of not have to worry about it. The policies, that's going to be passed the meeting. I might bring some to the business meeting, but that's going to be a continuation. There's more policies than I thought. There's probably 15 or 20. And some of them are very old. I mean, we have a policy about using, marijuana, medical marijuana and things like that Lori and I wrote years ago, but things have changed. And back in those days.
Convictions.
Yeah.
Those might be.
Yeah, the criminal conviction one, those might change. And this board might have a different opinion about allowing us to move people forward. There's a licensure review sort of thing right now, metric that we use. So if someone has a misdemeanor that occurred within the last 5 years, the board has authorized us to say, you're okay, if it's within these type of crimes. The board has said if it's in these type of crimes, I want to see it, like persons crimes, things like that. And it's just kind of a fair way to not have to bring everything to the board and keep people from getting licensed, right? It's for months. But that might have changed, right? The idea now is putting people to work, right? So maybe, it might be 2 misdemeanors in a 10-year period that we're going to say that it's not germane to what's going on. And then there's some legal challenges too that have happened over the last 10 years that affect that. So we might not be able to consider certain crimes or even crimes at all if they're not related to the, massage.
There's no nexus.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and there's, when I was looking at some stuff this week, I realized too, we don't necessarily have enough language to deal with what technology's changed.
Correct. Yeah, there's AI. There's all kinds of things that are
We
going
don't have
on.
any AI stuff at all.
Yeah.
So those policies are, I always work on them, but during COVID, it was sort of like survival, right? You're not trying to be proactive, you're trying to just survive. And that's what we were doing during COVID, and those things kind of got put on the back burner. And now they're moving forward. It's at a point where we need to look at them. We have a board that might be here for a while. And so this board can decide how they want to move forward with their policies, how they want to shape the board. And I think it's good. It's a good time.
You could also save some of that for the strategic plan that you do. Then,
Absolutely.
but then that's pushing it off.
Yeah.
So, because those policies, you can get mired down in those a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially if there's so many of them. So there's some policies you're going to want to cancel that aren't even, have anything to do with anything anymore. So.
And policies, that's something we can go ahead and take votes on and enact at meetings as opposed to like going through a rule process.
Yeah, there's
not rules.
Correct. Yeah.
You just got to be careful you don't do policies that are kind of like secret rules.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
Not de
something that
facto
Angie will
rules.
help you on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's just what I want, like, those of you who haven't been to a business meeting yet, it's a lot of work and a lot of nitty gritty type stuff. And so there'll be different kind of action as opposed to like the rule process. It's a lot of that stuff.
Chair Brewer, can I ask for some clarification? So if 2 weeks before everything's supposed to be out there, all of the executive stuff and cases, I think the only exceptions would be what? Emergency revocation?
Correct.
STIP?
Yeah, there might be
Because I think the STIP would be okay because we've already reviewed the past stuff.
That's right.
And so with those 2 exceptions, okay, perfect.
Yeah, there might be times where we have to add a case that we feel might be a public safety issue that doesn't rise to the level of an emergency suspension or maybe a revocation.
We want to move it along.
But we want to move it along, so there might be additions, but I don't see them being a lot.
I can speak to that.
Yeah.
I will try to limit the last minute additions as much as possible, but some of the factors that I currently review are possible public safety, discipline or exoneration of an LMT that requires a timely decision, either for a public safety issue or to exonerate so that they can get back to work properly. I find those to be important. And if it came in the last 2 weeks, I would even hand carry in a paper version to be considered. And then sometimes we'll have an applicant that may have a background requirement to be reviewed by the board. And if they were to complete their application after the 2-week deadline, but before the meeting, I would try to bring them in so that we could get them a decision made on yes or no, whether or not to license.
Okay, so
those would be some of the possible exceptions, but for the most part, I try not to do that at all.
And can I suggest that if those exceptions are there, that an email just be shipped to us, additional stuff has been added?
That's what I was gonna ask, that because of how the printouts and stuff works, like, could we just get these 5 cases have been added for you to review?
Nice.
So we can hop in, because we're all like doing this from our hotel rooms, you know, can we just know so we can go in and hit those?
Absolutely.
Would be super helpful.
Yep, not a problem.
Yeah, I would, so like for me, any like agenda changes, compliance changes that happen, maybe after that, an email by Friday evening, I think would help us all prep. And I want to thank everyone who is on the board for showing up prepped for our meetings. There are a lot of groups I've sat on where no one reads before they show up. And they do it all in real time, and it's exhausting.
Train them to do that.
So yeah, like, I appreciate that everybody does do their prep, so thank you.
That was one thing when I joined the board, because of where I work and I've seen the commissions in the past, is since we're dealing with people's lives, I need to be prepared to make the best decision that I can for these.
Agreed.
Thank you. Okay, then other issues of new business. I had one question or concern I want to bring up about how we're doing our group mandatory training. I understand the administrative efficiency of doing it as a group. Unfortunately, however, it's incredibly hard for those of us who, like, we don't work in the state system to do this all the time, but it's incredibly hard to be able to see the screens and read this training in the way we're doing it. For some of us who have eye problems, it's almost impossible to see. And I would like to see if there's another way that we could go about it.
Absolutely.
One thing I was thinking is perhaps now that we all have Workday, if we could be responsible for it ourselves, and if we do not get it done by the business meeting, then it would need to be done at the meeting before we go home.
The last thing on the business meeting agenda?
So that to incentivize us to get it done, because we'll all want to go home on Saturday.
Yeah, so we started,
Yeah.
it used to be assigned to individual board members,
Nobody would do it.
and
Right.
nobody would do it.
Yeah.
And you don't get the nastygrams I do. A lot of them, you know, and they send them to me every week. You haven't done the training, your board member hasn't done the training. And so, you know, as the director, I sometimes won't forward that to you guys because I want to hound you guys. You know, it's like you're my boss, so I don't want to, you know, make you mad.
Bob, does the board have a separate date than, like the rest of us, state employees, which is 12/31? Does the
Yeah, no.
board have a separate date to get those done?
Yeah, no, same date.
Oh, okay,
It's
okay.
yeah, same
It's
date.
just they remind us pretty much monthly,
Yeah.
Okay.
even though they're not due till December, we get work days.
So if the board members,
I do too.
so the former executive director actually set it up where they did the training, the board did the training. That's how the board wanted to do it at that time. And a lot of boards do that. But when I go to these meetings, the executive directors, one of the biggest topics we have are our board members not completing the training that we send them, and the mandatory training that we send them. And I understand you guys have jobs and that type of stuff, so we try to make it as easy as possible, and that's why we did that. It was like, you're going to be here anyway. Let's do 30 minutes, 40 minutes, even an hour, and get this training done. You don't have to do it, you know, make time for it later on. But we'll do it any way you want to do it. If the board wants to do it individually, log into Workday and do your training yourself, I certainly support that.
Or a combination of the two.
Yeah.
You've seen at some of the meetings where the board members are beginning to participate in the training, and myself and Mitch might say, well, we've already completed that, and we get to leave 45 minutes early.
Me too.
But does it have to be done, could we adjourn the meeting before? Because if everybody leaves, we don't have a quorum to end the meeting, is my concern.
Ah, yes.
So even if I've done it, I can't go anywhere. So we have to have enough people. That's why I was wondering, is there a different way? And just,
That was why I had to stay last time.
right,
Oh.
it's, I'm kind of in a conflict. I understand the efficiency and needing to get it done from the administrative end, and I also know from being the participant, like, I can't see it. Like,
Yeah.
I physically can't see it.
Yeah, it's
It's a struggle to do, so, we can table it, come up with.
So I got a question for Ray in English. Would you guys like to do it in a group setting, or you want to do it at home?
I already did it.
Perfect.
I'm done.
So essentially, do you want to stay later at class in our travel meeting, or do you want us to wait?
If it's, I would prefer an option if that's possible. I mean, I did a whole bunch of trainings oh gosh, at the very end of last year, I couldn't tell you what the trainings were.
Starts over the beginning of the year.
Could we say we take them out of the meeting time, adjourn the meeting, and then, okay, everyone who hasn't done it is gonna stay and do it.
You just have to do them, you have to do it separately.
Right, on our own computer, since we all have our own computers, like, the guy take and say, okay, all of you haven't done your IT training, we're sitting here today and finishing it, but the meeting is done and everybody who's done it can leave. I don't want people to have to sit here who've already completed it.
Yeah,
So we need to be able to adjourn.
You know, my vision was if we were going to do it as a board, we would do it first thing in the morning. You know, that was I know it's it's difficult to see, but I wanted to switch it to first thing in the morning. You know, the first thing you did was like, okay, we're doing training. It's an hour long, 45 minutes long, whatever it is. And then we moved on. We ended up putting it at the end because not everybody attended, and we wanted to let some individuals go that didn't need the training. So
Our technology has changed now that we've gone with DAS IT.
Yeah.
Everybody's ability to log into Workday independently has greatly increased. And that was another factor as to why we were doing them at the meetings, the splash top and
That's right.
using an outside piece of equipment and the triple verifications and the drop of blood and all the things you have to do.
Seriously.
It is actually very convenient to get into Workday now. And then if you wanted to take your time at home and take your 30-minute IT safety class and stuff, I think it's much easier to do so.
I even had to print mine out before everybody went to Workday. I had to print mine out for the state and give it to a Kayate or send it to her to let her know. But now on my Workday, it shows both. It shows both where I work as well as.
Both your roles.
Yeah, it shows both of them, which I was like.
Interesting.
Right, that was freaky, yeah. But
So I have a question. We give you one prep day for the board meeting, right? We pay you for that, a stipend. It's the same stipend that the legislators get for a prep day, or for a day of session. And is that sufficient? Is one day of prep and then we give you a board meeting, do you need more than one day of prep? Because here's the deal, it's $150. And I'd rather give you another day of prep that maybe you can add that training to. So you have a day and a half of prep and a half day of training, than to hold you over to board meeting in Hood River for an extra couple hours, you know?
Well, and honestly, it's better to get board business done than the training done at those meetings. There's a lot of times when I think we'd like to extend conversations and we've reduced them because we need 2 hours at the end to do our training.
I agree.
Yes.
So we can add a prep day, to give you 2 prep days and then the board meeting time, to allow you to give you time to be able to do your training. Because the way it's written right now, it has to be a substantial day. So if you just did your training, you don't get paid for it, okay? But if you do a most of the day, most of an 8-hour day, doing something board business, then you can get a stipend for it. It's how the language is written. So if we give you a half a prep day and then a half a day for getting your training complete, I'm certainly willing to pay you guys to do that, and that way it can get done and it doesn't interfere with anything going on in the meeting. But you have to vote probably to give yourself an extra day of prep time. I think, right, because it's different than what we got.
Yeah. Plus you're helping yourself, so you need it on the record, so it's transparent.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that sounds like that sounds like a win to me. Does any thoughts?
Yeah.
I don't get paid either way, so I vote for it anyway, because I know how difficult it is, so, yeah, I'm good with that.
Carol, do you have thoughts as doing it, because you're doing it remotely?
I'm good either way. I'd prefer to do my trainings just individually. Sometimes I get those workday things and I think, oh, I got to do this, and I do it, and then it turns out that I have to in some compulsory way do it again with the board. That's happened.
Yeah. There's a lot of bugs in Workday right now, but they're getting better, I think. Seems to be anyway.
That's a stretch, Bob.
Better than when they first started.
No, yeah.
Words are the other.
Okay, so right now we're looking at, need to move to add a half day of prep time
Just add an additional day.
An additional
So-
day.
So basically, right now, you get 1 day of prep and you get the board meeting. So if it's a 2-day board meeting, you get 2 days of, pay, their stipend anyway. And you have 1 day of prep. So that 1 day of prep is for you. So if you just add an additional prep day, as long as you do, a substantial part of an 8-hour day of prep for the board meeting, reading your stuff and your training, then you'll be perfectly fine.
And that would be for the big business meeting only, or for?
No, it's every board meeting. I mean, it gives them prep time. So if 1 day is enough, then you probably shouldn't vote for an additional day, because doing the training itself is not going to be an additional day. So if 1 day of prep is plenty for you to get everything done that you want to do to prep for your board meeting, but if you feel like it's not enough time, then giving yourself another half day and adding on the training to it, I think is the way to go. Because I'd rather, like I said, I'd rather do that than to try to mess with the technology and try to get everybody, trained. And this way there's a commitment. The purpose of that next thing is to get your training done and board meeting prep.
I can only speak for myself that I usually exceed the majority of 1 day in prep, especially in reading compliance in particular.
Yeah.
I exceed it.
Especially when some of those case files are like 40 pages.
And I never keep track. I do it not in one sitting, I do it in, I'm up at 3:30 in the morning, here's what I'm gonna do until 7 AM when my normal shift starts. But I never keep track, so I'm not sure how many hours it is.
I'd like to make a motion that we add an additional day to prep for board members, so that they have a total of 2 days to prep and read the material, prep for this, as well as training. That's going to be the understanding. That also involves that, but I'd like to make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, so all in favor of adding a prep day for the board for each meeting? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? None opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
I have sort of a nuts and bolts question about this. Ordinarily, I wouldn't say that it takes me a whole 8-hour day to do this stuff. And a half an hour, 40 minutes here and there with a training now doesn't seem substantial. Even though other people may need that time, is it okay if I just opt out and don't that item off my timesheet?
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody can opt out of any prep time. I mean, there's nothing that says you have to do it. It's just available in case you need it. So
We still have a couple agenda items. Could I move for a 5-minute break?
Can I get a second?
I second.
Okay. All in favor of 5-minute break?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay.
I
Break
appreciate
for
that.
5 minutes. Be back at 10:45.
This conference will now be recorded.
Guys, we're back recording.
microphone's on.
I know.
It's ready.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
It did.
Go over.
It did.
Okay, Carol, are you back? Just give Carol a second here.
Good. Oh, there she is.
Oh, great, thank you. Okay, thank you everyone for getting back on time. If we have no more new business, we can go ahead and go to the SEBA report. Director Ruark.
Yes, so every other year, I'm required to compile the SEBA report. It's pretty substantial. Actually, yeah, every other year, I have to get audited first, and then I do the SEBA report. The SEBA report, along with the audit, goes to the Speaker of the House, the President of the Senate, the Governor's Office, and maybe the State Audit Division. I think it goes to those 4. It's comprehensive. It's a big report. It takes me probably 6 months. I work on it all year long, but it takes me about 6 months to compile it. It's several pages long. It basically gives our financial snapshot of what we're all about financially for the biennium, the previous biennium. It talks about all the cases we've had, what kinds of cases we've had, any variations in our budget. So like if we underspent an item by more than 5 or 10%, I have to explain that variation. And you can imagine this one was particularly difficult because it was sort of COVID and end of COVID. So there was a lot of variation in expenditures there. We had less income. Of course, we had less expenditures, but some line items we spent a lot more on than I anticipated, like our computer expenses line item, because we had to buy new computers and keep them running and all that type of stuff. So the governor's office is going to review that. So every time not every time, but every other legislative session, agencies have to present their budget, present themselves before the legislative assembly, and sort of give the legislative assembly a snapshot of where they're at, a report, basically. Because we're a semi-independent board, we don't have to do that. But the governor's office takes all of our SEBA reports from all the SEBA boards. There's about 10 or 11 of us, I think. And they compile a report to the legislative assembly. And then the governor's office presents that to them. And if they have any questions, they'll call us individually as directors and bring us before the legislative assembly if they want us to testify for anything. It's just accountability, right? They can keep track of what's going on with this board. It's a check for me. Like when you do financial stuff, you have to have checks and balances. It's the same thing for the board. So boards don't kind of go rogues, or executive directors don't go rogue. It's a check and balance scenario. They just added this year, they wanted like 5 biennium of information. So I had to go back for stuff that we didn't have and sort of compile it using our old database and our new database. So I'm not 100% confident that those statistics from 2013 are exactly correct. I had a kind of an archaic database to go off of. So, but it's as close as I can get based on what I have. What else does it talk about? It talks about all the rules that we made the previous biennium. It talks about that's about it, I think, the goals. And whether we're complying with the objectives the governor's office and the legislative assembly have set forward. There's a page in there. It's a self-assessment. And I learned this year that that self-assessment is, I'm supposed to give it to the board members and they self-assess themselves. But I told them I didn't do that. There wasn't time to do that because by the time I learned that's what it was, the instruction manual was not clear. I thought I just did the assessment myself on how we were doing it. So next time we do this report, the board will be getting that, and they're going to assess themselves on how they're doing, basically. So yeah, that's the SEBA report in a nutshell. It's a lot of pages. Any questions about where we're at?
You said it's every 2 years, is that what you said?
Yeah, yes, it is. Okay. So it's for the previous biennium. So every 2 years, every other year I'm doing it for the biennium that just ended the year before.
Is this report made publicly available?
Everything is public, okay. Yeah. But this particular report goes to those individuals that I talked about. They compile a report that goes to the legislator, and that report is posted. And I think our SEBA reports, most agencies, including ourselves, we post them on our website.
That's what I was wondering. Yeah. Thank you.
You guys have SEBA meetings still too, right?
Yeah, we have semi-independent meetings, semi-independent board meetings every month. We meet and talk about trends and things that just apply to us as SEBA boards. There's a bunch of statutes out there that don't apply to SEBA boards. And then there's some statutes that don't apply to most of the SEBA boards and apply only to some of them. Like we're included in a section that's us and maybe Cairo or dental. There's like a statute that only applies to like 2 of the SEBA boards. So it's really weird how it's written, but imagine that.
It was pieced together probably.
Yeah, it was kind of
different legislative sessions.
Yeah, for those that don't know what a SEBA board, I think I talked about this last time, but it was basically a business model, a new way of kind of dealing with government, right? These small boards will not take a piece of the budget from the general fund like most boards do. They're going to use their licensing funds and anything that they get in revenue to run the board. Kind of more like a business versus a government agency, although it is a government agency, right? So it initially was going to be an idea that they were going to try out. The legislative assembly, the legislators said these are the SEBA boards, give it a shot, and then they made it permanent after that. I think after 2 years or 4 years or something like that.
And it's a weird combination. It's some medical and some not medical.
Yeah.
It's kind of odd.
It is like the
Yeah.
travel organ, the
Architects.
wine board.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah,
wine
it's
board.
really weird.
And of course, there's a few medical boards, but I also attend the health professional regulatory board
Right.
meeting every other month, I think it is, or maybe it's once a month. And we talk about things, the trends that are going on in the medical profession and health professionals and things like that. So, yeah, so that's kind of the SEBA report. Any questions, any other questions about it? You know, one portion of that SEBA report that was telling is that we lost about $200,000 in revenue during COVID. Fortunately, we had sort of a boon before COVID hit. So we had about $600,000 in our account, which was unusual for this board. We usually run about $200,000-300,000 in our account. And that's about 2-3 months of working capital, which is where we want to be. Of course, more would be better, right? But before COVID, we had about 6 months, sometimes 8 months of working capital. COVID hit, we ended up losing a couple $100,000. Thankfully, we had the money to be able to do that. And we're right where we need to be, I think, budget-wise, and having reserve money-wise. So,
I think I was reading in the report for the board members, the explanation of the variances were very helpful.
Okay.
So if you haven't done a deep look at that, that might be something you want to look at before our business meeting. I thought it was a good explanation of how our finances run and synopsis of Bob's meeting reports. So I thought that was helpful. Any questions for Bob about the SEBA report?
I would add that in some of that explanations, the director has pointed out that we went from roughly 150 cases, I believe, in 2016 to over close to 350 now, and without any increase in staff. And that's significant burden.
Mm-hmm.
And I only mention that because we previously discussed the vacant LD position. And I know that's for future review and budget dependent and a whole bunch of other factors, but it kind of supports the importance of that position if we're able to accomplish that.
Mm-hmm.
And cases are getting bigger. When I first took over as the compliance manager here, our cases, they weren't computer heavy like they are now. There's a lot of research that goes on. There's a lot of different websites they have to reach out to and things like that. A lot of stuff to compile. Back in the day, we just issued a subpoena to somebody and we got that information, but now you can find it. But it takes time to be able to do that. So these cases are so big, just simply because we want to, and there's new case laws and things that require, more in-depth investigations.
Bad guys are getting more savvy at hiding.
Yeah, they are, absolutely. They're getting better at what they're doing, and so it takes more time. And so if you add all that on top of doubling the amount of cases we've had since 2015, it's like, it's time to look at.
Well, I think it shows though that the board was not necessarily intended to be this this agency that ends up policing sex trafficking and sex work. When it comes to what you think a massage board is doing, people outside I think would be very surprised to know what the labor intensive stuff is.
Absolutely.
And I think our budget, our staffing, everything needs to reflect what the reality of the cases. We're in a position where we have to take the cases, but we're not law enforcement. We're not,
I will reinforce that is the trend nationwide in all member states. And dealing with the same pressures of, it's our industry, it's our profession. And so we de facto become involved in this IMB sex trafficking situation because it affects our legitimate licensees and the profession's reputation and status as a whole.
And it protects the public. I mean, if you look at a massage business and you're somebody who's not inclined to engage in sexual activities, and you go there and get molested or hurt or things like that, if they're not professional, they try to give a professional massage. They don't know what they're doing. They can certainly hurt you. And so there's a lot of public protection point to that. And I could give you many references to people that were injured thinking they were going to a legit facility. So we have to protect it. And nobody, like you're right, nobody intended that when they started this board that we were going to be dealing with the amount of prostitution that we have and sex trafficking and things like that now. I agree with you. I think LMTs would be surprised at the amount that we deal with. So.
Yeah, we think of massage as a small business thing or one-on-one thing, not necessarily a cartel, criminal enterprise, and that's I think needs to be reflected in our all of our stuff going forward. The nature of what you're really doing in your roles. Okay, any other comments or questions for the director? Okay, thank you, Bob. It was very, very helpful. Appreciate it. Okay, then we will go ahead and move into public correspondence. We had no correspondence this month.
I will reach out and say that the board tasked me with reaching out to the hydrotherapist or the hydrotherapy person from last time. I sent a couple emails, made a phone call, left a voicemail, no response back. As of this morning, I checked this morning just to make sure there wasn't a last minute email sent to me. So I just want some clarification and specifically ask for what this individual intended to do, what the board wanted me to find out. And so we're unknown at this point. So I can't answer that correspondence except to say what the board directed me to say is that, and I've got that language, so from the last board meeting.
Thank you for the follow-up on that, Bob. At this point, I'm gonna open it up to the public. Any public member who would like to address the board, please turn on your camera and microphone when it's your turn to speak. State your name and license number for the record, and please keep your comments to 2 minutes or less. Public comment is limited to matters on the public meeting agenda and otherwise relevant to matters that may come before this agency. Comments will not be allowed that are longer than the time allocated by the chair or that are disruptive to the agency's conduct of its business. So at this time, let's go ahead and open it up to the public.
By the way, it looks like we have an additional person that joined.
Mitch?
No, Patty.
Oh, I thought we got Patty before.
Oh, did we? Okay, sorry.
Okay, Carrie.
Hi. Welcome. I have a quick question about scope of practice within massage therapy and kind of how it relates and transitions with the aesthetics field. And I wanted to find out where I might find more information about that in terms of like being able to use products and different devices and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so
go ahead.
Yeah, our scope of practice is basically what the definition of massage is, right? That's kind of how our scope of practice is written. Now, I understand you're asking about devices and things like that. Can you use them? And the board has a policy that says that if something can be purchased over the counter that doesn't need a medical prescription of any kind, then it can be used in your practice. That's how the board has used that, has that philosophy or that policy basically. So non-prescription items can't be used. So if, for instance, somebody, has medical marijuana, you can't apply medical marijuana to them because it's a prescription that they received, right?
Okay.
If you want to use a device on somebody and that device is legal to possess, there were some devices that weren't approved by the Food and Drug Administration that this board has looked at in the past. So it's legal to have in the United States, and you can buy it over the counter. It doesn't require a prescription. So people can't be bringing in their own device that their physical therapist gave them and said, could you use this on me? Can't do that. Then it can be used in your practice. That has been the board's philosophy.
And the OHLA, Oregon Health Licensing Administration, also has a ton of, what do they call those, Angie? Those policies that they put out on estheticians, cosmetology, devices. They have a ton of that stuff on their website. So if there's a lot of overlap and you have an esthetician license and an LMT license, for instance, you just need to make sure what hat you're wearing. And I will point to you that our statute says for the physical well-being of the patient, of the client, and the HLA, OHLA is for beautification. So there's a difference for the purpose, what you're doing the act for.
That is perfect. Like that kind of definition, defining the two sides of it is perfect. Because I think of things like a light therapy or something like that, right? And I think about things like a facial mask or something like that.
Sure, can I give you an example of what I would use and explain to students? And if this is off, please tell me. I might offer an exfoliating foot scrub for feet.
Okay.
Because I'm working on tissues and to help the skin and to work my massage. I'm not offering the scrub to make your feet beautiful for sandal season.
Great.
It's even though I might be doing the same thing, how am I selling it for the aesthetic or working on tissues?
Right. So you can use, and in your example, you can use products outside of just like a lotion or cream for like that, like a foot scrub or something. So you can use a product for health and well-being versus beauty. Okay.
I would just like to
add
two things to assist you as well. As it is as well defined as the board's been able to define it in general terms, because there are some specific things that come up that are anomalies and need to be discussed or independently. But we do have those definitions on our website under our rules, as well as some of the better known exceptions. And in addition, I'd like to point out to all the LMPs that you may be able to use these devices or applications or techniques in your practice, and it's not necessarily outside the scope of practice, but sometimes taking training in those may not count as CEs.
Yeah.
Because they'd be allowed to be added to the scope of practice, but they're not defined in the CEs as part of the core scope of practice. So we do find sometimes that people will take a class on the TENS machine or something like that, that we do say, yeah, you can technically use it, but it may not qualify as a qualified CE.
Okay.
If you were to take a herbal wraps for weight loss is not in our scope, is like what we're selling. But can we as massage therapists apply, what you're doing?
For body wrap or body treatment. Right. Okay. Well, that is very, very useful and helpful information. I appreciate it very much. To be able, because we offer aesthetics and massage therapy, and so where that lines, for example, I think of things like a waxing. No, a massage therapist would never use waxing because that is for beautification and considered, wax might be a product, but it's beautification. So lotions and ointments and creams work within licensed massage therapy. So I thank you for your clarification and explanations.
Thank you, and thanks
Yeah.
everybody for their input, because I think this is the really important stuff that we know as a board, how we're approaching these.
That'd be a good newsletter.
Thanks for
Yeah.
the question.
Right. And
Right.
I also, if I must say, one other thing I want to say is I absolutely 100% praise and support and love you guys as a board. This organization, Oregon Board of Massage Therapy, is always accessible, always quick to respond, is always helpful and understanding. So I just want to say from a private career school, you guys are such fantastic people to work with, the organization and also the people together. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carrie, appreciate it. Yeah, thank everyone for the discussion on that. We have to move over, Patty, would you like to jump in? Can't hear you.
Yeah.
Patty, can you turn on your mic? Can't hear you.
All right, there we go. So Patty Glenn, Federation of State Massage Therapy Boards, and I want to echo what Carrie just said. Actually, I was going to sit silent this morning, but obviously having a history with the Oregon Board of Massage and seeing Oregon now today continuing to do their due diligence and their the work that you guys are doing just does my heart well. And just a reminder that, you know, FSMTB exists because of the work that the Oregon board did in conjunction with other boards. Your participation in the annual meeting, I mean, I look forward to meeting some of you there, hopefully, or seeing you if I can make it in person to Oregon. But we're here as a resource. The reason that I'm here today, multitasking and listening in, is to identify anything that comes up in the regulatory arena that I can use to feed the education task force or use to address issues as it pertains to the Interstate Massage Compact. And so just a reminder that we're here, not eavesdropping, but rather seeing how we can best support you as our member and obviously as our leadership. So thank you guys for all the work you're doing. I appreciate it. And as always, good to see Jeff, Bob, and Lori, because it's been a lot of years.
Hey, Patty, I'm retiring in 2 weeks.
That's not allowed, just for the record. We'll have to have coffee or wine or something.
It is allowed.
Congratulations, Lori. It's well deserved. Well deserved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. Anyone else who would like to speak? Mitch? Okay. Find my manuscript. Sorry, folks. Okay. The Oregon Board of Massage Therapists will now meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 192-660 to discuss certain matters on the agenda pursuant to ORS 192-660-27F, to consider information or records that are exempt by law from public inspection, ORS 192-501-4. To review, discuss, and consider written legal advice provided by the Department of Justice pursuant to ORS 192-660-27F, or to consult with counsel concerning legal rights and duties regarding current litigation or litigation likely to be filed pursuant to ORS 192-660-2H. To consider and discuss in executive session information obtained as part of the investigation of a licensee, applicant, or other person alleged to be practicing in violation of law pursuant to ORS 192-660-2KL and ORS 676-175. No decision may be made in executive session. At the end of executive session, the board will return to open session and welcome the audience back into the room. Prior to imposing a sanction under ORS 687081 or any rule of the board shall consider, but is not limited to considering, the following factors: the person's past history in observing the provisions of ORS 687011 to 687250, 687895, and 687991, and the rules of the board. the effect of the violation on public safety and welfare, the degree to which the action subject to sanction violates professional ethics and standards of practice, the economic and financial condition of the person subject to sanction, and any mitigating factors that the board may choose to consider. There is no media present, so the staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are are going to stay in public session. After executive session, or after we transition over to executive session, excuse me. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and stop and transition to executive session. I think we should be back in 90 minutes, so.
I don't know how you're planning to get eat food.
I think we should eat through lunch today.
Yeah, you should take maybe a little bit of a tiny lunch break, so Carol might want to have lunch and we can get a little bit of lunch done. And
But we can do that in exec session.
I think so. Yeah.
But,
I was just trying to gauge.
right, I think 90 minutes. looking
Oh,
at
yeah.
what we have today will be
Executive session, that should
sufficient.
be sufficient.
Okay, so that'll bring us back at 12:45. Okay.
I'm going to stop this recording and then I'll.
Okay, so Carol will meet you over in executive session.